All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call the January 17th, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance, myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Don Dowling, Jim Johnson, and Betsy Odgers. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli via Zoom, Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Ortega, and Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. And there are currently 4 members of the public in the room, and it looks like another perhaps 7 in total, including online members. So thank you for joining us. All right, let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. All right, I'd like to open the meeting with some public comment. Public comment may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda. Commenters must state your name and whether you are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer of the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do I have any opening comments?
Yes, I have a comment.
Okay.
My name is John Auerbach. I'm a township resident for 45 years and taxpayer. Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My comment is related to the last pro committee meeting where a discussion developed related to a $400 cost for using a piece of trail grooming equipment. I do not plan to engage the details of this issue, as I believe the Board of Supervisors are well aware of this ongoing pugnacious issue. My point is that the members of the pro committee treated the Board of Supervisors, and most especially Supervisor Day, very disrespectfully. The pro committee should submit a written apology for this disrespectful behavior. The pro committee needs to be mindful of their function in Franklin Township government, as they are a committee appointed by the Board of Supervisors to serve in accordance to their charter and precedents developed over the last few years. Board of Supervisors is the elected authority and approves committee's activities, including all financial by specific item. The pro committee is not an independent cottage industry. A few comments about weather. Recent road maintenance was very good. Be mindful of long-term winter cycles. Last few years have not spent much money on winter road maintenance, but I do recall a winter sometime years ago where we spent $360,000 in 1 year. In another incident, a single storm cost $59,000. Fortunately, PA declared an emergency, and FTA Franklin Township was reimbursed 75%. Based on PA current finance, I didn't believe this kind of investment would ever happen again. The town hall meeting was very well organized by Franklin and Elk Townships. In the comments.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
My name is,
We can go up to the mic. There's a button with a little person on it. Yep.
hello, everyone. My name is George Hunt. My wife and I live on a farm in London Grove Township. I'd like to make a comment about Big Elk Creek State Park. Would you like me to do it now or later?
It's on the agenda, so you can make it now if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. I am the executive director of SAVE. I'm actually joined here by a colleague of mine on the board, Dennis Newbold. And I did write the hard copy of the letter you have in your hands to Secretary Dunn. This is regarding the proposal for campgrounds at Big Elk Creek State Park. SAVE is an infrastructure and environmental nonprofit. We've been serving Chester County for over 25 years. And my comment is that we are concerned about the advisory committee that Secretary Dunn acceded to in the town hall. First off, thank you very much for co-hosting that last week. That was impressive. We are concerned that this committee is not formed on a timely enough basis. DCNR seems very intent on completing its master plan by March for whatever reason. that's right around the corner and the clock could be run out. We would be glad to facilitate the opposition to campgrounds at Big Elk Creek. Please let us know how we can help. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And I'll make a quick comment here. Part of the discussion on Big Elk Creek, if you choose to stay through, is to talk about how we're going to organize this task force and how do we get all of the stakeholders together expeditiously. And so any advice, please just jump into that conversation. If you have anything to add, because I think we're all very new to this sort of thing and we think we're doing the right thing. And, it seemed like the stakeholders, like at the town hall, were interested in the task force. I don't know DCNR's position really, but we'll see how that goes. So thank you for your input, and we'll look forward to your advice. Thanks.
Hi,
Any,
I have a comment. I'm Nan Latimer. I'm a resident and a taxpayer. And all I want to say is thank you to you all, the Board of Supervisors and the staff, especially the staff who set up that town hall. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it was everyone behind the scenes were really the folks who put that event together. Without Jeff and Stacy and Melissa and the whole team and the folks in Elk Township, that never would have been pulled together. So yeah, I would echo those statements, Nan. Good work by everybody. All right. Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Tia Consorto. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. I also wanted to say thank you to all of you for your hard work with the town hall. And I just wanted to let everyone know I am working behind the scenes with local government on working to figure out how we're going to do this advisory committee.
Okay.
So there are steps being taken just for the public's knowledge.
Perfect. And again, we're going to have that conversation later in the agenda, and we can talk a little bit about how we're going to do that, because I think we want to make sure that we get organized and execute this as quickly as possible. So thank you.
Thanks.
So you're going to stay on, right? So you'll be with us?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay,
great.
perfect. Yeah. If I didn't say that, that's what I meant by saying that we want your input.
All right. So we're going to start with the approval of the minutes. So the December 20th, 2023 Board of Supervisor minutes are in the packet. So I'm going to make a motion. I'll make a motion that the board approve the December 20th, 2023 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jim. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, so motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, and there's from our organizing meeting. So I'm going to make another motion that the board. So I make a motion that the board approve the January 2nd, 2024 Board of Supervisor organization minutes. Can I have a second for that? Okay, David. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, Dawn, off to you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Melissa Ortega to do the December Treasurer's Report.
The December 2023 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $170,000, $148.39. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $45.78. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,358.46. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements with disbursements of $73,160. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $508.80. Balance in all funds totaling $2,008,490.50.
Okay, I make a motion that the board approve the December 2023 Treasurer's Report as presented by Melissa Ortega. May I have a second? Donna, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the zoning officer's report. This report was compiled by the zoning officer and includes number of permits processed for the month of December. In the month of December 2023, 13 permits were issued, $3,971.92 in permit fees, $0 in miscellaneous fees, and $0 in recreations. Open space, and $0 in impact fees were collected. 16 inspections were performed.
All right, so now we're going into the reports. One thing, I'm looking at the agenda as it's written. One thing I'd like to do, if the board is okay with that, is move the Big Elk Creek State Park Town Hall discussion, because it's a little bit bigger than we initially anticipated, to just the end of the report section, beginning of the business section. Because I think we'll be able to go through the Planning Commission, Historic Commission, and FSA pretty quick. And I don't want to make everyone kind of sit through that conversation if they don't want to. Even though it will be a very important conversation. So if you'd like to stay, please do. I think if everyone's okay with that, we'll just push that to everyone's all right? Okay. All right. So with that, let's just open with Andrea Roberts and the open space report.
Hi, good evening. Quick update of the January 2024 Pro Board meeting. First item we discussed was the You Are Here map. Last time I met with you guys, we did kind of briefly review that. And one question I think we had for you, I'm going to pull it up real quick here. Let's see. Jeff, can I share my screen? Or is Jeff not there?
Jeff he just came back. He just left the room. He's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew.
Okay. Sorry, I am just trying to find the file that I'm oh, here it is. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we did a little bit of an update to the You Are Here map for, oh gosh. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Here we go. Update to the You Are Here map. One question we had, we're just changing the style of it a little bit, but during the last Board of Supervisors meeting, you mentioned that there were going to be maybe 2 sections of the trails that were going to be removed. We wanted to make sure we knew exactly what that was, so that as we update, those are not included on the new version of the map. Can anyone offer clarification on that?
Yeah, so we can talk about that once we can talk about that at a pro meeting, I think. Because I don't have the updated trail map. Because the thought here is we're going to try and move as many of those trails in the upper right-hand corner to get people out of those lower wetlands.
Okay.
And so once we get that, so my answer to that is going to be let's have that discussion at a pro meeting, and I'll bring the right folks, and we'll kind of have that finalized map. We just don't have that map right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Liam Kelly, he met with us to discuss his Scout project. I reviewed with him the different comments and feedback from the last Board of Supervisors meeting. Several things we talked about was maybe adding additional kiosks. His troop leader said that that probably would be more than he can take on at this point. And so what we've asked of him is to set it up so that moving forward, if there's another Boy Scout that wants to do something at the park, they can help, or they can match exactly what he did. Other comments were changing color coding. We did review with him that he needs to get approval from Jeff to move forward with the preliminary planning stages, such as pricing, materials lists, and so forth. And so he was going to get with Jeff, get approval on that, and then he could get all his information together to present to you guys. I suspect we will have another meeting with him prior to his submission to the Board of Supervisors. And so I wouldn't expect that for a couple months yet.
All right, that's good, because we're, like I think we mentioned at the last meeting, there's going to be some changes to that existing map. And so we want to make sure that the you are here and all that gets lined up with the timing of when these trails are going to be finalized. So
right, and
he
doesn't turn 18 until the fall, and so he's got plenty of time to get it done. And we did tell him that we needed to update our map prior to him.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, as long as I don't want to mess his timeline up either.
Okay.
So we'll figure. Well, again, this is something where I think we're playing kind of a game of telephone between the pro and us, and so I think we'll have to bring the right people together, Jeff, at a pro meeting, maybe Matt and myself, and get everyone together to figure it out. Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment for the board. The Eagle Scout's father explained to us that he needs to get just that initial approval from you, Jeff, before he can even start the plan. So I don't want anybody to be worried that he's moving ahead and doing anything concrete. It's really about him even being able to start. He has to get stuff signed, and then they'll come out.
Yeah, I did speak with his father this morning, so I think we're on the right path of the next steps we need to take.
And some things have been decided, right? The actual kiosk itself, the shape, didn't you decide that last meeting?
So we did review that with him, and I can share an image of kind of what he's thinking if you'd like.
Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
But it all comes back here. So we will all, so
Understood.
this is preliminary conversations with the pro. They kind of put him in the right direction. And then he put a package together, and then the board will see it in its entirety. Go ahead.
I may not be able to pull it up very quickly.
Surprised by how much work it is. It's a pretty substantial piece of structure. Yeah.
It really is. I may not be able to pull that up very quickly, but I can send everyone a copy
That's okay.
of that.
Yeah. Good. Well, I look forward to hearing the.
Yeah, this is Ryan Kelly, township resident, taxpayer, all that good stuff. I'm actually joining the call to hear about Big Elk Creek, but I'm Liam's dad. So if I can answer any of these questions, Liam's in the house here somewhere. I wasn't calling in for this specifically. But yeah, I talked to Jeff this morning. I think they're on a good spot. Liam's going to come to, I think, hopefully the next township meeting to share his plans with you, and then get the ball rolling.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Moving down our list, we did have a discussion. We started kind of digging into the 2024 initiatives for the pro board. Top of the list was trail maintenance. We talked through a list, kind of what would be considered trail maintenance work that we would need approval from the board on, and what we could probably move forward on without prior approval, and then just review it with the board. I think it's important to note we would plan to still review everything with the board, but maybe not need prior approval to working. And so I'm sharing a list with you right now. I've kind of just very basic things we discussed, and happy to hear your feedback. Trail maintenance that we kind of thought probably did require a board of supervisor approval, which would be moving trails anytime a project requires funding, and then updates to permanent structures, even if they don't require funding. And then trail maintenance work that would not require board of supervisor approval prior to actual work being done would be removing debris and limbs from trails, grading a trail, trail mowing, and maintenance, maintaining of the trail surface. So if we needed to lay straw or stone, if it was wet or something similar.
So Andrea, I thank you for putting this together, and I'm glad you guys worked on it because it was unknown before. In the list, I think grading a trail and maybe putting unnatural materials like stone or millings should probably go up into the Board of Supervisor approval category.
Okay.
I agree with that too.
So so the grading the trails, I can understand that because that's kind of a major, well, so it's often necessary, and I don't think the board would often say no, but it is something that's major work that goes on. My one question about the stone is, what if it's just replacing stone that's already there? You're not putting new stone or new straw down. You're just repairing. You're not taking an unstoned trail and then
Replenishing it.
you're replenishing it. Is that something that you have a problem with?
Something that's already approved and it's already there, I'm okay with.
Yeah, so
maintaining it, yeah.
we're not saying suddenly making a dirt trail, a stone trail. You're just taking a stone trail and replacing the stone.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then again, I think part of it is, and we talked about this, Andrea, about proactivity is no surprises. Like, we don't want to be surprised by something, and so I could see with stone that, again, just the stone issue is, as long as you're replacing stone, you're not creating you're not creating something new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I think, I do want to make sure that our plan would be to communicate anything that was done with you. The trail maintenance that didn't require board of supervisor approval, I think we were, kind of viewing more as something that needed to be done quickly. And so maybe we wouldn't be able to get somebody out there to look at it, but I understand what you're saying.
I think the question is more about not letting us know what's been done, but letting us know what you're doing, right?
Okay.
Before it's done. Mm-hmm. That's really the key, is that because at the end of the day, and we're responsible. The 5 of us here are responsible for everything that happens in the township. And so when someone comes to us and says, hey, there's some guy in Banffshire with grading trails, what's going on? And we say we have no idea what's going on. It's not a good look. So it's not hey, we're going to stop you from doing this. It's, let's talk about it. The trails aren't going anywhere. The parks aren't going anywhere. We have plenty of time. There's usually not an emergency unless someone's laying across the trail needs to be removed. That person does not need board approval to get that done. But I don't think grading trails is something that is usually an emergency situation.
But I do want to clarify, even with the stuff that's maintenance that doesn't require board approval, and you have yours listed here, I think they're reasonable. Jeff has to know. You got to give Jeff a call. So if there's a tree that's down, call the office and say, look, there's a tree down. We're going to go and we're going to take. Jeff has to know everything. He's the man. So I would just think it's a quick phone call. So even if you leave a message, just so that Jeff knows. And I think we've all agreed grading a trail goes up to something that requires board approval, and adding stone has to go up there. But anything to do with maintaining or replenishing is okay in the other, but Jeff knows everything.
But again, I think from my perspective, all of these are minor issues, minor stuff. It's really about letting us know before you do it.
Exactly.
Right.
The other thing about letting Jeff know is that if the pro or somebody, a volunteer from the pro doesn't have time to do it, Jeff can find somebody else to help do it if a tree falls down or something else happens. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, could I ask for a clarification, Dave?
Sure.
So maybe a month ago, we had really heavy rains and freezing at night. And Bob noticed a section just past the bridge in Banffshire was a steep section, was very muddy and slippery.
Yeah.
And so he texted the group and said, hey, we should really put some straw down or something to make it so it's not so dangerous. Because when the frost stalls in the morning, it's just a slick area. And so, you know, that needed to be done within an hour, like not wait a month for you to say we could put straw down. Like, do you really want to wait a month?
Yeah, Paul, that's a natural thing that we're okay with. A straw or mulch or something that like degrades and goes away, that's fine. But stone is permanent and that was never there before. So that kind of thing is fine with, I think, with all of us.
Yeah, so if I would, so I think what we're saying is if you'd edit that trail maintenance that does not require BOS approval, that maintaining the trail surface, like laying straw or mulch, natural, it's adding new stuff like stone.
So can
that
we
changes the nature of the trail, right? So if you don't have a stone trail and you make it a stone trail, that's something different because it changes the nature of the trail.
Can we leave the one at the bottom and then add one at the top that says adding new stone? Or you see what I mean? That's a
Semantics,
change.
however it gets the point across, right? You're not creating something new.
Okay.
So in
Thank
your
you.
example, laying straw is appropriate.
Thank
You're
you.
not changing the nature of the trail.
Just give
Yeah.
Jeff a call.
Yeah. Yeah, just like
Or maybe at the bottom, put replacing stone or enhancing stone.
So how does Jeff want to be contacted, like after hours? Because I do most of my work in the evening or on the weekends.
Phone call.
Call your cell phone or the office?
Yes. Call the work cell phone. If it's an emergency, you can call the house number.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, Crossan Park path, Paul Overton he's gonna mark the trail that we've discussed this, a trail that needs to be rerouted. He's gonna mark it and then we're gonna schedule with the Board of Supervisors to meet us out there and take a look at it. We've been waiting to do this for a little while until the leaves died back. And so of course now we have snow, but I think we're probably in the time range where we can walk this with the Board of Supervisors. The next two items, raised flower bed at Banffshire, we didn't do anything with that, and we also didn't discuss upgrading playground at Crossan Park. There is a new item on the list, which is the preserved property signage. So and Paul is here, and so he can speak to this a little bit if he wants to, but there is written within the contract of somebody that preserved their land, it was written into the contract that we could add signage that said it was a preserved piece of property within Franklin Township. And I'm going to share a photo with you of what that could look like. And this is something we want to, and this is just an idea of something we found online. But we think it would be really nice if through the township, all these people that are preserving, their land, if it's documented or noted somewhere for the rest of the community to see, we think it would be nice to add signage. And so again, in one case, somebody has agreed to this already. We would obviously go through a process with you guys to design the sign, to make sure you were okay with it, obviously get homeowner approval. But this is a new kind of thing that we were talking about at our last meeting.
So Andrew, just to comment, I'm glad you said what you just said, that it's really, I think this is Donna 105. I think it's really important that you get homeowner agreement. Even if it's in the contract, and I just don't want anybody to feel like they're being forced to do something. I'm hoping they look at it as a very positive thing, right? This is a good thing that they did, and we want to acknowledge this good work. But if you contact a homeowner and they're like, no, I really don't want to do this, I don't think we should coerce anybody, say, well, you signed a contract. I don't think we should do that. I think we should make this a very positive experience for everybody.
I agree with you. I don't think we want to force anyone into it, but if people were open to it, then I think it would be a nice thing to have. But I agree with you. Even if it was in the contract, I don't think we would want to force anyone to do into doing something that they didn't want to do, or putting something on their property that they weren't okay with. So that's something else we were working on. New business at our meeting, open space inventory. The Pro Board was asked to update the open space inventory for Chester County Planning Commission. Pro member Bianco reviewed the list. There are no additions for 2023. She's going to submit the paperwork to Jeff Eastburn for approval before sending it off to the Planning Commission. And that is my update.
All right, thanks, Andrea. So just before we get off this, I do want to talk about some of the comments that were made about the board and the way the Pro kind of, not everybody on the Pro, but the Pro board kind of handled last meeting. The topic was around this $400, very small amount of money in the large scheme of things, donation to an organization that lend their equipment. And the way the board was characterized when we made the decision not to do this charitable donation, and the way Donna was treated, we didn't make this. I know you're, I know, but you're again, it's very disrespectful. We made a decision. If you listen to the meeting, and this goes to every member of the Pro, if you listen to our meeting, we did not just say, we're not going to do it. We had a conversation. We went through the options. We discussed how we got here. And at the end of the day, there's a process the board follows when we approve funds, when we pay vendors, and we are not in a position to do charitable donations to organizations. One of my concerns was, ruining the relationship with the organization that lended us or lent the equipment to us. So we reached out directly to them, explained the situation, how we came to the decision we made. We apologize for the miscommunication. And moving forward, we negotiated a relationship with them where we can provide them funds for renting equipment. And so this was something that was taken seriously. We deliberated this. We discussed this in an open meeting. And quite frankly, for a public appointed official to say they no longer trust the board, we can't trust the board. Another said that we're doing it to hurt them, is very immature. It's not professional. And remember, again, who you represent. This isn't not about you. And we have, again, and I said this earlier, every decision that is made, everything that happens in this township comes down to the five of us. We're the only ones who are elected to these positions, and we are accountable to those decision making. So we cannot change the rules. We have to do things deliberately and with intention. So I just want to say, I was very disappointed with how that meeting went. And I'd like to see you guys do better in the future and try and work with us, and rather than seeing us as the enemy. I think that's all I have to say. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say.
I'll just say I watched the meeting too, and I agree with everything you said, Dave. It went on too long. The back and forth kept going and going, and it was unnecessary. So
Anyway. All right, thank you. And if that's it, we'll move on to Planning Commission.
Good evening. The PC met on January 4th. I assume you all can hear me? Can you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
can hear you, John.
Yes.
Keep going. You're
Okay,
good.
just check. All right. We met on January 4th and we had our organizational meeting. And we voted in David Hoffman to be the chairman and Mark Harris to be the vice chairman and John Garnitars to be the secretary for the following year. We then spent a good bit of time going over the issue of pathways and sidewalks and how they relate to zoning, how they relate to planning, how they relate to ADA requirements, and a whole range of topics. And we've been talking about this for a number of sessions, and we decided we really wanted to put some closure to this. So we're going to be meeting with our new engineer to see what really is reasonable to expect and what we should put together as a proposal to the Board of Supervisors as an approach for the future, whether it be sidewalks or pathways. You know, for example, in the case of sidewalks, in most of the township, there really isn't a good case to be made for sidewalks because the frontage is too great for most homeowners. If you look at where sidewalks are usually placed, usually they're placed in locations where the maximum length of the sidewalk is 75 feet and the frontage is relatively small. There aren't too many places in Franklin Township where that situation would work, except in the village. So we have some discussions to go over with that. And rather than work them over through you right now, we wanted to get ourselves in a one voice position. And the way of best doing that is by talking to our township engineer. So we're scheduling a meeting with him to go over some of these issues so we can put some closure to this issue because it's been going on for a good bit of time. So that's kind of like the short and gritty of it. Not a lot to report as far as progress, other than the fact that we're looking to complete this action. Any questions on that? No? Okay.
John, I have a little
No,
bit to add. I have a little bit to add if you're okay with that. We
Sure.
will be having a February Planning Commission meeting. There's a new subdivision that's going to come in regarding a lot line change. So the developer or the landowner has agreed to have it reviewed before the Planning Commission, which is great. And I've already spoken to Nate Klein, since he's going to be here, our engineer. We can start talking about the sidewalk and access way at that meeting. We can start that discussion then, because he'll already be here.
No, that's good. One of the issues that came up, and it probably is something else that we have to discuss at that meeting, is an easy way to improve pedestrian safety is by increasing the shoulders. But relates to that is the placement of telephone poles. And if we can get the utility company to place telephone poles further back from the center line, that gives us some flexibility in that direction. And that'd be one topic that we'll be looking to discuss. We just don't know what our legal position is on that and what the engineering position is on that. So that, if anything, that's probably one thing that's going to probably come out of this as a positive, I think. Another question came up is, we're a second-class township, and there was a question as to, is there a requirement for the number of meetings we should have a year? You know, for example, if we don't have plans coming before us, there's not a reason. If there's no zoning ordinances that we're trying to deal with, there really isn't a reason. Is there a minimum requirement by any codes? We're not aware of them, and that question came up from Paul Legassi. So if we can get some clarity on that, that would be helpful.
I can
I don't-
answer that. I can answer that question right now for you, Dr. Gontars. There's no requirement of an advisory body to meet a minimum number of times, except that every year you must reorganize, of course, and I would view that as a mandatory meeting. So you've advertised that, you've done that. So my answer to your question is, if you get an opportunity to stay home, take it.
And that's fine. You know, we weren't looking to create meetings. We were just wanted to make sure that we weren't in any violation of any sort of regulations. And we didn't think we were, because, you know, the look that I made said we weren't, and you're kind of confirming that. So that's good. I'll clarify that at the next meeting. But that's about the end of it. I guess next month we'll have a meeting and we'll clarify some of these issues, and hopefully within a few months we can come forward with what our thoughts are and what our recommendations could be. And then maybe how do they fit in with the Board of Supervisors' interests? And that may require a joint meeting to make sure that we're in alignment. Okay?
Great.
Thanks, John. So we're looking for a nomination for a planning commission alternative board member. So I'm going to read a motion and see if we have any nominations. So I open the floor to nominate for the planning commission an alternate board member position. Is there, do I have any nominations?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll nominate Jim Johnson to be alternate.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Do I have to accept?
No, you don't.
I do.
You don't. All right.
All right, let me finish. So any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. Jim, congratulations. It's a good committee. You'll
It's fun.
like these guys.
We got to give you something to do. Miss Dr. John Gontars is getting bored over there.
I wouldn't say we're bored.
Next is the Historic Commission and Harb report.
Paul Agassi is in Costa Rica this evening, so
Oh,
he is not on. He did submit a report,
right.
and he said if the board has any questions over the next week, he'd be happy to answer them.
And they didn't meet.
Okay, Mark Zawada is here to give us the Franklin Sportsman Association report.
I have the January report. The 23-24 hunting season is quickly winding down. It ends Saturday, the 27th, so there's a little over a week left. The harvest report, we're up to 12 deer, 8 doe and 4 buck, 3 harvested from Bamshire, 2 from White Clay Crescent, 6 from Franklin, and 1 from Goodwin. We had a little bit of action on the service projects, but not much. As of January 9th, we're at 162 hours, 0.5 hours, 162.5 hours. I know they did some work for the town hall. That's not included in this, but they set up chairs and stuff, but so we're quickly winding down. It's no other incidents or anything to report. So.
I just had a quick question. Do you guys get reports from Peacedale Preserve? Or,
No, we're not related with them in any way. No, but I live pretty close to there. I do hear them shooting there pretty often.
Well, that's what I didn't know.
Yeah.
What's that club called again? Natural Lands.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it a organized hunting organization, or is it just they have folks that come into their properties?
Natural Lands Trust organizes it.
Mm.
So their manager, Jared Shaw, seems to have a pretty good handle on things there. So if we ever have any specific questions, I'm sure we can go to him and ask him, no problem.
Just interested in what their harvest is.
Was curious.
Yeah. One question, and maybe this will be better answered at the end of the season, is we had closed the cross trails in Banffshire to kind of help with the hunting, increase safety, etc. This year you got 3. Is that?
We didn't get any the year before.
So it's.
I think it helped, but that's a decision you guys will have to make. To me, we still left one cross trail open and the whole perimeter trail open, so it wasn't a big. I didn't think it was a big hardship to the public, but if it is, and they want it open next year, that's fine. But last year, I kind of felt like we needed to get something done in Bamshire. We tried and we weren't getting them, and I tried hunting in there a couple times and stopped hunting in there because it was just so much, mostly dogs off leash traffic.
Yeah.
That it helped a little this year. We harvested a few more, so that'll be your call.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Whoops, Mark.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Guy Donatelli for the solicitors. Ooh.
Are we going to do the Big Elk Creek before the solicitor's report or after?
I'm going to do the Big Elk Creek. So you were correct, Don, but I'd called an audible. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Big Elk Creek and hear from Antia as well. So we had last week a very, I would say, successful event, town hall, where we had representation from the county, from the representative Lawrence and Senators Comita and Kane. The DCNR had a bunch of people there as well, all the way up to the secretary, Ms. Dunn. And so one of the nice things that they did was they opened up their floor with announcing they were taking camping off the table for now. The word they kept using was for now. So we need to work on that. But I think overall it was a very successful event. I think the public came out in force, which was fantastic. And they had some great opinions to share and questions for the committee. So one of the outcomes from that was we agreed to develop this task force to help guide the development of the camping, development of a Big Elk Creek State Park, and whether or not there's going to be camping and what would it look like, et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to get more voices in that mix. And so couple of days ago, I talked to Jeff and said, how do we get this ball rolling? We need to get this going. And it sounds like Antia might already have some help for us. So maybe I should just stop talking and hand it over to Antia, and then we can maybe see where she's at. If you can. Oh. I can see you. I can't hear you.
There we go.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. So I've had multiple conversations with a lot of different people about how we're going to do this. The first thing we need to figure out is exactly how we make us as official as possible so that we're recognized by the state. Otherwise, we don't really have any say. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we've been discussing how we can do that, whether we need to turn ourselves into a 501c or get some sort of recognition from the governor as far as being an actual official group. And the consensus that I've had talking to a lot of different people that do this is that we want no more than 8 people on this committee, or it's going to be too many cooks in the kitchen. We're not going to be able to get anything done effectively. And I do have plans for who those people should be, whether that's up to, and I know everybody gets to, the townships get to elect someone and Representative Lawrence gets to elect someone, everybody gets to pick someone. But if I have any sway in the matter, I do have people that I think would be really good for this committee. So I have that list. I don't want to put it out there right now until we've actually discussed how we're going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense because there's 2 things. One, the way we described it in the town hall was each stakeholder would bring someone to the table, right, for their input. And obviously, when you have these conversations, it was off the cuff and we were in the moment, and those plans can change. So I think the question is, how can we get all of those folks back in the same room together, right? And start talking about, okay, what is it that we want to do with this committee and who should be on it? And I think you're an important piece to this because you've done a lot of the legwork already as far as who you might want to bring. And again, you're ready to say something, but I think that might be the starting point is we have to get the commitment from those folks again.
Right, but like I think the gentleman said before, time is ticking and it actually ticks on DCNR's favor. So Jeff, I hate to put all this on you, but is there any way that you can use your connections, the same folks that we had at the meeting, get a Zoom meeting together. And we bring, and Tia, you come to that meeting. This is my opinion. We can all do it a different way. I would put out your list and say, look, these are some folks that I think that could be helpful. If you have other people, let's get them on the list. And we should try to lead that Zoom meeting, at least with a good understanding of who the people are. If not that, plans to get back together quickly to make, to agree. The other thing I think is really important is we need to have the folks that have are elected people. We need them to slow down DCNR. This March timeline has to be put on hold or whatever. They cannot play the game of running out the clock, and that happens all too often where delay, you do this, and then they kind of march on. So these, we have Lawrence, we have the state senator, Kane, we have, I don't even know all the names, but they need to do their jobs and step in and say, look, the timeline needs to be suspended. We got to get this group together, and then they need to meet. Now, and Tia, you made the comment that we have to become official. I don't know what that means. And I think if you want to do that in parallel, that's fine. But I would not wait till you're official
No.
to remove
I'm
on
not
everything. Okay.
saying that we wait. And I have already talked to Eric Rowe. I've talked to Representative Lawrence, and I'll be honest, I disappeared for the week. So I'm not even home right now. I was trying to take a break, which isn't working out very well. But I've talked to all these people, and I was planning that as soon as I got home to set up a meeting with Jeff and Mike Corcoran from Elk and Representative Lawrence and try to pull everybody together next week to sit down and figure this all out.
So let's have Jeff do that.
Sure, that's great.
Yeah, you don't have to do all of this. Jeff has he can work magic like no one else when it comes to this kind of thing. So
I have a question. Who are the stakeholders? Do we have a list of who the stakeholders are?
So it's
the panel.
Stakeholder meeting. It was intended to be the senators, Representative Lawrence, the county commissioners, and both townships as the people that put people forward to be part of this committee.
That's how you came up with the 8.
No, that's the people who make the decision. So
That's the people choosing who goes on the advisory committee, right? So
8 is just
no, that's what I meant. They're the people who choose the 8.
yes,
If we're gonna stick with 8, yeah.
7 would probably be better, but
So this is a question that how do we disrupt the timeline for the state, right?
I'm working.
Okay. So that's the question is when we said, hey, we want to slow this down, the response was, well, we've got a timeline and a budget. And we said, well, we all know you have a timeline and a budget, but how do we disrupt that and change that? And so is this something, and you said you're working on that, but I guess the question is, how do we get involved and help, right? We're not.
Yeah. So John sent letters out, and Eric Rowe was, I was in the middle of talking to him. He hasn't gotten back to me since our last conversation yesterday. And they were going to be contacting DCNR. I know John Lawrence's letter went to them today, basically saying, hey, we haven't heard from you. You're moving forward with things you shouldn't be moving forward with. You need to slow it down and stop. I think getting Senator Comita to agree to stop this timeline, like if the township could contact her and say, hey, we need to disrupt this timeline. They need to give us time to get this committee together. They need to stop all of their planning and their forward momentum, because I know they were out there last week marking potential trails and things like that with flags. So we need to get her to do that. I think she's going to be the key because she's friends with Cindy Dunn.
Whoever has access to the money, it's always about the money. So
Absolutely. And they can also, being senators, they can say, hey, we'll figure out the budget. Let's just stop the timeline for right now. Stop the clock. But if we can't get them to do that, I'm not sure how we get DCNR to back off their timeline.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I would want this, I'd like to have a Zoom meeting as soon as possible. I know you can, but a key agenda item would be how to slow them down. How to reset. We don't use words like how to reset the timeline so that feedback from the advisory committee can contribute to any decisions.
Yes, I understand. Just to let the board know, I've heard from the county commissioners each individually, probably about 2 times each.
Okay.
So they seem very interested in this and very interested in the residents' feelings and concerns. So I was impressed with that.
Was their biggest concern the timeline or the spending their budget money?
Well, I think they go together.
So
Right.
I didn't know if it was both or they're like, we got a budget, we got to spend it, and that's the timeline we have. So if we like backload that this year, maybe okay. Yeah. So.
And that's why it's important to get the senators involved, because they can control that budgeting and that agenda.
First off, and Taya, hats off to you for galvanizing all this. So a couple thoughts. One is, I think that this committee, whether it's an official 501c3 or not, is going to have some standing. And as soon as it can actually communicate a list of concerns directly to DCNR, but also copy all the elected officials who are stakeholders, that will get the process of under more control versus simply being a pro forma thing that just kind of gets done by fiat, because that's the risk. And just a sort of a real technical thing that people should be aware of is we have to learn more about how we know when George Strawbridge transferred these lands, it was with the intention that they stayed as they are or were. And that's been reneged on. So also at that time, and I can't remember which document exactly, there's FOIA going on to get some more documents, including a missing exhibition, I think, Appendix F from the environmental review. But it's the fact that this property is sort of in play, as it were, as a conversion.
Yep.
And that is a technical term where, for some reason, DCNR had oil and gas activity and infrastructure in other state parks. So to offset that, so it's called an offset, it has to portion aside. In this case, it was going to be the lands of Big Elk, which begs just a couple questions. One is, if that's true, why would the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which was a big donor to the initial purchase and which is requiring this conversion, why would they accede to that if the lands are actually getting developed? Because, yeah, so that makes no sense. Okay, number one. And number two, are we running against some sort of deadlines for the LWCF? And thirdly, do they actually have the ability to claw back money they've given to a purchase many years ago? Or what exact recourse do they have? How much could that muddle things up? So I'm just sort of painting a picture about how complicated this all is beneath the surface, and how it might also, like an iceberg, attest to something bigger that we don't see, or in vernacular, hidden agendas.
Get it done fast.
Yeah.
Well, and I think this speaks to moving quickly, because I think if once it's done, it's done. Like once it's developed, it's developed. It's really hard to go backwards, right? So thank you, Antia, for keeping the pressure on. And Mark, go ahead.
I was at that town hall. It was very good. A lawyer from New London came on and talked.
Yeah.
And said she was filing. I didn't exactly file it, but to me it sounded like it was negligence or mismanagement on DCNR's part to manage the park. And is that actually a lawsuit?
I can see Antia's got something to say.
So, yeah, so she's one of the people that I had brought in, and Carmela, her name is Carmela Siliberti. She filed paperwork basically to prevent them from destroying any documents, so that if this does need to go to litigation, they are required by law and have been served paperwork to preserve the chain of information. So that means no emails can be deleted that pertain to Big Elk Creek. It means no paperwork can be shredded. Nothing can be timed out and gotten rid of. It all has to be kept. So that's the paperwork that she filed with them in the event that we have to go to litigation.
Yeah, that's called a litigation hold letter.
Thanks.
Which is customarily, not customarily, which can be sent if you anticipate litigation and want to guard against spoliation of evidence.
Right.
Yeah, I was hoping it would hold them up, but yeah.
All right, so I think we have our path forward. We're going to get everybody in the room early next week, sometime next week, and get that done. So that's good. So anything I didn't talk about or cover on this that we should discuss on Big Elk Creek?
Dave, can I just
Absolutely.
add one thing?
Yeah.
Mike from Elk Township is on. I don't mean to put him on the spot, but I wanted to give him an opportunity in case he wanted to say something. Did you want to say anything, Mike?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I don't really have anything to add aside from we had a planning commission meeting tonight. We discussed this committee, and if we only have one appointment from the township, we know who we would appoint. If we had two, or if they were going to do it where they had a lead and then an alternate, then we have other people, at least two people that are interested in representing Elk as well. So I'll definitely show up for that meeting whenever they want to have it, and I'll, be glad to talk about it more, but I don't have anything else that I need to add aside from I was glad to hear what I heard tonight.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
George. And the only suggestion I have about the composition of the committee is I feel that there's some risk in it being sort of top down and each person has one vote. I believe there should be some coordination. So it should be decided, well, what type of people do we need on the committee? Well, we need a resident, like the person who said he's speaking on behalf of the hummingbirds.
Right.
We need a scientist. We need a lawyer. We need someone, an activist. So that should be done before everyone makes 8 separate decisions in my mind. And I definitely see the merit not to having too many cooks in the kitchen, but I also think that shouldn't be at the expense of having as competent a representation as possible, in case that means more. And Supervisor Johnson suggesting maybe alternates or whatever.
All right. Thank you very much. Is anything else we want to add?
I'm sorry, will George be added to the Zoom call? Seriously, I mean, you're part of the big, yeah.
Why not?
Why don't you talk to him?
I just wanted to say, I love this scientist right here in the middle who hasn't said one word yet tonight, but I loved what you said at the town hall. And I wrote down what you called the corridor, because the Piedmont corridor, because my father worked for the Nature Conservancy and I came up here as a child for the Serpentine Barrens. So I loved what you said. It's the last corridor that we have to be saved. So my money's on you too.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's move on. Thank you, everybody. Good conversation. This will be an interesting month or so. All right. Who's next? Is it me? No, it's Dawn. Now you go, Dawn.
Now it's the solicitor's report. I'd like to introduce Guy Donatelli for his report. Thank you.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. My report is going to be a brief discussion of your consideration of the First Amendment to the PCS site agreement. This is something that your staff, Ms. Ortega, and I in my office have been working on for a while. It was a cooperative effort to extend the current agreement for the PCS site with the owner of that site. We refer to it as Crown Castle, but or at least the user of that site, the township, is the owner. We refer to it as Crown Castle, but it's a company called STC4 LLC, and we present to the board tonight a First Amendment to that agreement. I will go over, I'll highlight briefly the major components of it in summary fashion. With this amendment, we're going to be extending the agreement for a period of time which will allow this agreement to expire August 3rd, 2054. I used to think that was a long way off, but looks like it's right around the corner, at least as it relates to this transaction. The renewal term carries with it something that we consider to be a favorable financial package for the township. And you will recall that one of the considerations offered to the township by Crown Castle was a purchase. The township looked at that, looked at the cash flow that the township would be getting from an extension of the lease, and determined that the extension was a better deal for the people of Franklin. So we have an extension of that term. We have a $20,000 signing bonus, which I call the Melissa Ortega signing bonus, because she was instrumental in assisting in the negotiation of this agreement. There comes with this agreement a right of first refusal, which is not unusual, and no other components of the original agreement is being changed. We managed to get some language in paragraph 9 to allow us to present our tax exemption form as opposed to giving a W-9. That's a detail, but it didn't matter. We have a reliable description, and we have a reliable memorandum so that it can be filed in order to preserve the right of first refusal that the lessee is going to acquire through this agreement. So it's all buttoned up. I recommend that the board consider it favorably. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Guy. Any questions from the board? No, okay.
I just have one
Yep.
quick one. How do we, there's a 90-day renewal. So in 2020, at the end of 2028, before the 2029 renewal, how do we know? What's the tickler that we have to know if we're going to renew it or not renew it?
Don't notify us.
They'll call us, or
Yeah.
usually it's on our side, right?
Mm-mm.
The lessor.
Mm-mm.
So the language provides that this is what I would call an auto renew.
Mhm.
So if you look at the language in paragraph 3, it will automatically renew for 10 successive renewal terms of 5 years on the same terms unless the lessee, unless STC provides owner notice of intention not to renew not less than 90 days prior to the expiration of the initial term or any renewal term. So the onus will be on the lessee to tell us 91 days before 90 days before the renewal period that it wishes to terminate the agreement. So that's the advantage of an auto renew to someone who's getting the check. If the other side misses that, even if they notify us on the 89th day, they're out of luck. So that's how that would work.
I got it. Thanks, Guy.
So is there a motion to read, or do we just get the document and sign it?
Well, there is a motion, and I'm looking at the revised motion sheet, which Ms. Hollis forwarded to me.
I do not have a motion on the sheet.
Yeah, you don't have a motion sheet. Okay. Well, then the motion would be to approve the First Amendment to the PCS site agreement as articulated by your solicitor along with the accompanying exhibits.
Okay, so a motion to approve the First Amendment of the site agreement.
First Amendment to the PCS site agreement.
PCS site agreement as described. Okay. All right, so I guess I'll read this. So, Don, do you have it, or you want me to read it? Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. All right. These off the cuff motions, man. You never know what you might agree to. All right. I make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the PCS site agreement as described by our township solicitor, Guy Donatelli. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All right, not hearing any. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Guy.
You're welcome. Donna, that concludes my report.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
All right.
Guy.
So, go ahead.
I don't know where this fits in the whole world of things, but I just, so every time we get a package, right, for our monthly meetings, we always get a report from ICOM, right, regarding what's going with one of my favorite places, Lexington Point. And I just feel like we're getting close. Like I just was reading on the bottom of, I think it's page 2 of the report, that as of May 2024, they could be ready to put in the 13th house. And I would like, as we get closer to these milestones, to get Stan on a meeting, just to give us up to date where we're at. Because the thing that's in my head is, when are we looking at us having to take control of this? And so I know you know this, Jeff, I don't want it to be tomorrow. I want it to be us, so we know a year or 6 months, 4 months. I want us to have a sense of what we're running into. So just when Stan thinks it's good, I would like him to get here.
It might be worthwhile just to say like a cadence of every 2 months, let's invite Stan to a meeting so we can, because to your point, things are getting close and I don't want to lose track of what's happening. And again, things monthly seems like a lot, but I think every couple of months to have Stan in here and go through the report and keep us updated. There's, we actually haven't talked about Lexington Point in quite a while. Things have been, this is something that, Betsy hasn't gotten it yet. So,
And at the very least, it's a good refresher for us to keep it in the.
And there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross to make sure that this is done right as we progress. And so let's just have them on the docket every couple months to just come in and tell us what's happening. All right. Thank you. All right. So with that, I now open for public comment. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees wish to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be reflected in the minutes. Do we have any public comment?
Yeah, this is John Auerbach again, township resident and taxpayer. 2 points. So in Lexington Point, I did happen to go by the facility there during the holidays and took a ride through the neighborhood. It's a good bit of activity going on in there. There's some flooring company in there, and they're working away on buildings. But I also took a ride down and looked at the waste treatment facility and did an external view just by driving around it. Based on my industrial experience, professional experience, I'd say that facility is ready for commissioning. Everything seemed to be in place. Certainly, I couldn't see inside the building to see whether all the control equipment was in there, but everything externally looked complete. I mean, all the electrical conduit was connected to all the units and all the external units, so it looked very complete. So that's my comment on that. The second comment is related to the Big Elk. And we talked about this a little bit in the meeting, but I wanted to talk a little more about it. And that's the legal aspect of this issue, because when you look at the groundswell of concern that has come up, certainly on Facebook and the website and the meeting the other night, that's all very heartening. And also we have all our local political leaders involved. But the important point is it's local. And based on some inquiries that I made through some contacts I have, is that this thing is being driven at a very high level from the state government, possibly even the governor's office. So the concern and potential opposition you have is all local. The ultimate way that you may have to engage this thing is some litigation. Carmela Ciliberti is an excellent attorney, very smart woman who I know very well, and we talked about this. I think what you might want to start thinking about as a parallel effort, what are the issues that litigation could address? Certainly the agreement that Strobridge had when he sold the property, that it would be used in a certain way. I don't know whether that's legally binding or not, but that's a point of litigation interest. So that's my point, is that you probably need to look at that also, and how you would organize that and how you would fund that. So those are my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Okay,
Just
thank
like-
you, Jim.
Sorry.
No, go
Just
ahead.
like we are considering the litigation aspect and figuring out where funding would come from. That's been multiple conversations over the past 2 months. There is a plan in place if that's where we need to go as to how we'll find funding. So please know we are considering that. It's not something we haven't thought of. And to what George said earlier about how to build the committee, I agree with the scientist and, you know, the lawyer and all of that. That's exactly how I built my list of people that I think would be good for the board. So I agree there. But if anybody needs anything, just let me know.
I appreciate it, Antia. Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, not hearing any, I propose a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:17 p.m. Can I have a second? Second. All right, thank you, Jim. Any discussion? No? All in favor, say aye. Aye.